Hello! So today we're going to look at Kevin Can F Himself, Season 2, Episode 2. This series is set in Worcester, Massachusetts, but it is not filmed in Worcester, Massachusetts. So in this very first scene, we have Allison and her aunt, and they're talking with a private investigator. And they're supposedly talking for the purpose of helping the aunt, but of course, Allison really wants to help herself in this situation. And they talk about a Chuck E. Cheese in Fitchburg, and they talk about Fitchburg sort of snidely. And this is pretty funny and actually makes sense. Worcester can be a rundown mill town with all of its issues, but Fitchburg is definitely more rundown and has even more issues. And I have several friends in Fitchburg, and they will definitely agree with me that Fitchburg has all sorts of challenges and issues. So it does make sense for people in Worcester to sort of be looking down on Fitchburg. And then next, the aunt is talking about wanting to go off and do a girls' weekend in Foxwoods. And this also makes a lot of sense. I have many, many friends who love to go down to Foxwoods or Mohegan Sun, the casinos down in Connecticut, and have fun for a weekend. There's a very nice spa near there. It's a great weekend getaway. So this is absolutely something that people in Worcester would talk about and look forward to and have as a casual, fun, relaxing weekend that they would want to do. So these first two locations that they mentioned are spot on in terms of how Worcester thinks about them. So in this next scene, they're at the diner and she's asking her ex-boss slash ex-boyfriend, ex-lover to have information on a pawn shop. And it turns out that the uncle that owned the pawn shop has passed away, but the pawn shop used to be in Sudbury. And again, this is a quite reasonable location for them to be talking about. Sudbury's about half an hour away, and it's a place that would have things like pawn shops in it. So I'm so far in this episode liking the places that they've chosen. Even though they aren't in Worcester, it makes sense that they're not in Worcester, and there are things that are quite reasonable for Worcester people to do. So this is a positive episode in terms of making it realistic for a Worcester environment. So in this scene, Patty is talking to her brother Neil, and Neil is wearing a t-shirt which says New England roast beef. And this is an actual shop in Worcester on Park Avenue, and it's called, of course, the New England roast beef. And it's really nice that they included an actual location in Worcester. They had done this a couple times earlier on in the show, and then they stopped doing it for some reason. So I'm pleased to see that they are once again promoting local places and giving that real authentic local feel to some of these scenes. So this is the New England roast beef location, which is on Park and somewhere that you can go visit and give it a try. So this is a super interesting situation. When I saw this scene, that it had realistic looking phone numbers, which is really unusual for any TV show or movie because they don't want people calling these numbers and harassing the people who own them. So then, of course, I looked up what these phone numbers went to because, like I said, they look like authentic phone numbers in the system. It turns out that they go to an actual Empire Loan of Stoughton. This is an actual real life business location. So out of all the places in here where they're making up places and inventing locations and so on, for the pawn shop, which some might say is somewhere that you wouldn't want involved in what ends up being a shady thing, this person is supposed to report the item to the police and confiscate it and all of that, and they're joking about whether he will report it or won't report it. It it's the kind of thing that you wouldn't necessarily want your pawn shop location to be involved in. But this is an actual real pawn shop in Stoughton called Empire Loan. You could call them up with the phone number that's listed there and you could go and visit them. So I found that really fascinating that they would have done that. So here's a look at the location from Google Maps, and this picture is just also pretty funny. It was taken from a Wendy's drive-through, so clearly the Google Maps driver decided he needed some Wendy's food, and he took the Google Maps vehicle around in the loop through the Wendy's drive-through, and it just so happens that the next building over from that Wendy's drive-through lane is the pawn shop. I don't think it was a pawn shop in this image. It's hard to tell with the glare of the light, but that is definitely the location of the where the pawn shop is now, and then the building next to it. So again, if you want to go visit some of these scenes from this TV series, you could go to that pawn shop and you could actually hang out there and talk with them about what it was like to be filming with the people. So here they are in the pawn shop, and those are probably actual pawned items in the background behind them. So if you had gone to the pawn shop fast enough after this scene, you could have actually bought some of these things. But in this, they're talking about going to Branson on vacation, and Branson is a very popular resort kind of area, a casual resort, country western kind of resort. And I found it funny that they mentioned Branson because it's the kind of place that you might think about going to if you were in the Midwest, but it's not really somewhere that people in Worcester think about going. We think about going to the Cape or going to Long Island or Block Island or go up to Maine or something like that, but we wouldn't think about going to Branson as a vacation for most of us. So now we've got Allison talking with an old college friend of hers, and the friend works at the Worcester Chronicle. There is no Worcester Chronicle, there is a Worcester Telegram, and the Telegram journalist makes a sort of snide comment about, well, this is Worcester, so of course they're going to like the crazy antics of your husband. I have a number of friends who work at the Telegram. It's, technically the Telegram and Gazette, but we all call it the Telegram. And it is a great paper. They do all sorts of wonderful coverage for local scenes. And in fact, the local high school just had an issue trying to send their orchestra to DC for an important event. And they didn't have enough money, and the whole community rallied together and found the money for them. So it's a wonderful local paper. In this scene, her local journalist friend is talking with her about how she was great in high school and why she didn't go on to college. And she says maybe not BC, which means Boston College, but maybe a state school. It's a little odd to me that she would mention BC as an aim. In Worcester itself, we have places like Worcester State and Holy Cross, which are quite good schools, as well as, technical schools like WPI and so on. So there are a number of places she could have mentioned other than BC. BC isn't really somewhere that people in Worcester that are, we'll say, middle level students would really think of as the place they want to go. But maybe this journalist loved BC personally, and that's where she would have wanted to go. And this is another one which felt sort of odd. Her partner has just died, and she says that, oh, he's from Charleston, and she was a black, gay, female partner, so that went very poorly because, those backwards hicks from Charleston couldn't possibly cope with that. And I'm not sure where the writers of this series thought about Charleston. Maybe they were watching some really old movies, but Charleston is now a suburb of Boston that has a lot of well-to-do people in it, and it's not the kind of place where being snide about lesbians or black people or women would go over well. So that really gives a off sense here that the writers didn't quite know what the demographics are anymore in these locations. And then we have this scene with the Boston sports shirt. And as much as I pick on some of the shirts that I have in this series, I really enjoy this one a lot. It's sort of a mishmash of the Boston Red Sox and the Celtics and the Patriots and the Bruins, and I think that is super cute. And I think I would imagine seeing lots of people around the Worcester area wearing a shirt like that. So kudos for getting their hands on a shirt like that. So all in all, in terms of Worcester, this was a reasonably good episode at representing Worcester in an authentic way. But more than that, this was the first episode where I really felt a connection with certain characters, and I'll do a separate video of that. I haven't been doing separate videos on the characters themselves up until now for a variety of reasons, but this episode in particular has really encouraged me to make that kind of a video, and you'll find out why when I post the video.